Appreciate being invited to speak with you all today. We've been a sponsor of Women in Energy since the very first conference way back in, I believe it was in New Hampshire. Again, it's great being here and to share some things about our company and hopefully um, share some knowledge about employees and what happens during a transaction. C. Associates specializes in mergers and acquisitions. We mostly represent uh, companies who are looking to sell their business, but we also do business valuations and we help people on the buy side and some transition planning. We work with companies sometimes for many years before it's time to exit the business. I've been in this industry since 1988. So I got a few years under my belt doing this kind of work. I started in sales and marketing, and both in residential accounts and equipment. I was a division manager of about a 40-person operation. And then I became a manager of business development, although we didn't have that term back then. We just called it acquisition manager. But now business development is kind of the standard term for dealing with acquisitions. So I did that. We worked for a large public utility, and we acquired 36 fuel companies in 40 months. So we were really kind of hot and heavy in doing acquisitions. I left that company to start my own business about 15 years ago, and I really prefer working with the family-owned businesses to make sure that the transactions go smoothly. So it's always a concern about what happens to employees, and I've been involved in a little over 200 transactions and probably about 4,000 employees that have been acquired, or the businesses have been acquired. And so I know, that's something that can be an opportunity for people, or, it can be fear. There's always a little bit of fear of the unknown. So I want to share a little bit about those experiences that I've had. There's really two things. As a person who's with a company that's been acquired, there's two things that your future depends on. One is the buyer, who is the buyer and what's their policies, and the other is the employee and what what opportunities you can see in the new transaction. And I'll talk about some of that. I will tell you that having worked with so many owners, there's really three things that owners are looking for when they're looking to sell their company. And this is a family-owned business, so most of the time the decision is because there's not someone left to pass it down to. And the number one reason by far is retirement. People just get to a certain age and it's time to sell. There are some other reasons, but that's the main one. So the number one thing that we hear from our clients is their employees. They want to make sure their employees are taken care of in a transaction, in a transition. And they, I can tell you from the deals that we've done, I would say 7 out of 10 of the transactions that we do not go to the highest bidder. They go to the best company. We're a little different in that we bring an average of 6 offers to customers looking to sell. And then we kind of narrow it down as long as they're in the same, financial position. We then will meet with the potential purchasers and the owner. And we jokingly call this speed dating. That kind of came about because it was pretty clear in these meetings that usually there was one like standout person, one company, I should say, who they really hit it off, and there was a comfort level there. Sometimes there's 2 or 3, and that makes it a little bit tougher of a decision for the owner. But the one thing we can't really put on a spreadsheet, we can give a bio, but we can't really tell a potential purchaser about the employees of the company. The owner has to do that, and that's what happens during these meetings, and that's part of what makes that process so key. The other two items, in addition to employees, are obviously the purchase price has to be in that range, and also the customers. The customers are very important to the seller of the business. I'd say customers slash the legacy of the business. Many times this is, second, third, fourth, fifth. We've dealt with sixth generation businesses. And so who that buyer is going to be if there's not a seventh generation is very important. It's important to the owner as well as the owner's family. Things to note is the buyer is almost always a larger company. So life will likely change. They may run it from the same location with the same people, but it'll be owned by a larger company, 99 times out of 100. Buyers of companies, people who acquire businesses, particularly in our industry, the last thing they want is a bad reputation on during a sale if they don't treat the employees right or they let the employees go. I have found it very, very rare that someone loses their job in a transaction. I was trying to think of the less than a handful of people that I knew. I remember there was one service technician, and my job was to we would have a meeting with the employees, and this is when I was on the buy side. And the owner would make an announcement and would let everyone know what was going on and thank them. And many times there were tears in the room. And then I would get introduced to kind of introduce our team, our acquisition team. So I always remember this one company. There was about 20 people in the room. And when I said what company I was from, one of the guys in the room, he said, oh, well, I guess I'm out of here. And he just left and went out the door. And I was a little shocked until I found out that we had let him go about 3 weeks earlier for some pretty bad employee practices. So we did not bring that person on board. We were kind of surprised he found another job so quickly. But other than that, it's extremely rare, at least it was with our company as a buyer, for someone to lose their position. I do want to talk about some things that physically happen in a transaction. We always used to, when I used to talk to people, I used to say, you're going to go home tonight to your family, and your family's going to say, how was your day? And we hope that you're going to say, it was a pretty good day. Let me tell you what happened. Rather than the opposite, where the sky is falling and we got bought out and I'm worried. So some of the things that most buyers will do, almost everyone I've seen, is as far as the pay rates don't change. If anything, I've seen occasionally the buyer will come in and give a raise. Also benefits. It's rare that we run into this anymore, but every once in a while we would run into a company who gave 100% medical benefits. And we didn't do that. We were 65, 70% of the cost, and then the employee paid the difference. What we would do is we would adjust the employee's pay so that their paycheck was the same, because it's very important. The employees are the business. And most buyers realize that, and they want to take care of the employees take care of the customers. The customers are the reason we're in business. The other item, which is very prevalent in our industry, again, I've never seen this not happen, is service time, honoring the years of service with the existing company. And so what I mean by that is if you've been with the business for 15 years and they're acquired, the buyer will honor the 15 years for things mostly like vacation. Say they give 3 weeks after 10 years or 4 weeks after 15 years, whatever it is, they will honor the years of service that someone has spent with the company. That's pretty much tradition in our industry. The one item that does change, because legally it has to, is retirement accounts. Uh, they have all employees have to have the same retirement program in general, unless they set it up as a separate corporation or separate company. So that does change. Most of the time, it's better, but sometimes it's not. But that is one item, retirement accounts that you employees might see a change. So a couple of questions that come up is why didn't the owner tell us they were selling? And that is something we hear occasionally, and we let people know they weren't allowed to. They were contractually obligated not to say anything. And it would have been bad for their business if they did say something because people are nervous. They don't understand. They probably have never been acquired before. And it could be very detrimental to the business. The buyer certainly doesn't want them to know about it until the buyers had a chance to meet the employees and tell them a little bit about themselves. So owners can't share that information with you. They also can't give you raises before the transaction closes, unless it's in the ordinary course of business. Say every July 1st, they give raises, or once a year, and it's that employee's year is up, and they give them the raise. They can't just blanketly go across. They would like to, but they're not allowed to do that. That's not fair to the buyer, and it just really doesn't happen. So I would like to share a story with you, and I think it kind of tells the picture. Well, first, I'm going to talk, before I talk about that, I want to talk about what happened to me at a Triple E conference about 5 or 6 years ago in Hershey. And there was a company who we had purchased their business. This is when I was working for a buyer. At the time, I had my own company, C10 Associates, had already been started. But I went over to the owner's booth. He had sold his company and started a software business very successfully. And at the business was his former service manager, who I knew from when we did the transaction. And he said to me, "Uh-oh, it's the Grim Reaper." And I was like really taken back that he called me that, because I never considered myself that. I wrote an article that appeared in Fuel Oil News, and it was called Walt Disney and the Grim Reaper. And because I always kind of considered myself more of Walt Disney, helping people's dreams come true, whether it's the owner or whether it's the employees, by giving them opportunities. So that's why I talk about many times it's really the attitude of the employee. And then to share with you another experience I had, we'd acquired a pretty good sized company with maybe 30, 35 employees, and the owners were two brothers and a sister, and they all got up and they explained, why they sold their business, and there were tears happening, and then I was always the next person to talk to introduce our team, and we were there, to meet everyone and to let people know what was going to, happen. And so as I introduced our team, I was like, this is Randy. He's the director of safety and compliance. He takes care of all the vehicles in the fleet, anything to do with storage tanks. That all falls under Randy. And Randy came along with an acquisition, a company called Steuben Costello. And so he was standing where you're standing right now. And then he eventually became the director of safety and compliance. And then the next person I introduced was Marianne. And Marianne was our director of human resources. And she also came with an acquisition. And the next person was Bruce, who was vice president of operations. And he also came with an acquisition. And then I got to introduce the president of the company. And I told this story about him, which he pulled me aside afterwards and said, "Please don't tell that story anymore." I think he was a little embarrassed, but I'm going to tell you guys today. He had started in the industry, working for a family-owned heating oil business, who also had a summertime business, which was porta potties for the county fairs and things like that. So his job, his first job, was working in the summer while he was going to school, driving a vac truck and cleaning out the porta potties. And then eventually he became a driver with the company. Their company was acquired, and he took it as an opportunity. And he then became the dispatcher. And then eventually he became the division manager of that business. He was then moved into corporate, where he was in charge of safety and compliance, all the underground storage tanks. This was at a time when, in 1998, when all the underground tanks had to be replaced with new tank regulations going on. So he ran that too. He had quite a bit of gas stations with the company at the time. So he was in charge of that. He eventually moved up in operations, and he became the vice president of operations for the largest heating oil company in the Mid-Atlantic of the United States. And then eventually he became the president of the company. So here's someone who came with an acquisition, who started out with a vac truck cleaning out porta potties, and went to school, got his degree, and always worked for the business. There's a story. One of my favorite authors is Zig Ziglar. He's a motivational speaker. He's since passed, but he used to tell a story about a train. A group of guys were working on train tracks, fixing train tracks, and this train comes up, and it's got this beautiful car on it, and like everybody knew, oh, that's the president of the railroad's car. And so the window comes down, and the president sticks his head out, and he says, "Hey, Bobby, how you doing?" Bobby was the foreman, and he says, "Come on in." And Bobby goes into the train car, and he's in there for like 10, 15 minutes. And then he comes out and he goes back to his crew. And the crew are looking at him like, what's going on? You know the president of the railroad? He's like, yeah. He says, we both started working for the railroad the same day. And they said, well, how he's the president of the railroad? Yeah, you're a foreman of a crew, but how did he become president? And he kind of, held his head down a little bit, and he said, well, 25 years ago, I went to work for $30 a week, and he went to work for the railroad. And that was the difference. So that's what I say to you is, work for the company, and there's opportunities in a bigger company if you happen to get acquired. And if you work for a company that is doing acquisitions, I also would like to leave you with this. Please treat the new employees as new family members, as in-laws, new in-laws that have come into your family. Don't be a conqueror, because these people have been in your position. They do what you do, and it's one of the things that makes our industry such a great place to work is the employees. So with that said, I would like to open it up for questions from the audience.
Thank you, Steve. The first question we have is, what happens if I have a loan against my 401k and the company is sold?
That's a great question. That answer has changed over the years. It used to be within 60 days you had to pay back the loan. But they changed that. I think it was in 2016 or 17. There's a couple of things you can do. You can keep the money, but then you have to claim that as income, and you have to pay, if you're under 59 and a half, you have to pay 10% penalty to the IRS. Let me go back and say, please check with your accountant first, but this is to the best of my knowledge. What's happened now is the IRS will give you till the tax filing date, so April 15th. So if this happened in December, of say 2020, you have until April 15th of 2021, unless you file an extension, and then you have till October, I think it's October 31st, and maybe it's October 15th, whenever that extension expires. But if you took the loan on January 1st, you have that whole year plus till the following October. Many times what people will do is they'll actually go to a bank. First off, your 401k, if you get acquired, there's usually three options for you. The first option is to leave it where it's always been. Um, if that's an option for you, you have to speak with the plan administrator, speak with the owner. But many times that plan, let's say you're with Fidelity, just as an example, a lot of times Fidelity will say we'll just call it an IRA instead of a 401k, and you can leave your money here. And many times they'll let you pay the loan off to them directly. The other option is to take the money out and roll it over into an IRA. I did that myself. I put it into a stock trading account. So you can do that as well. Or you can roll it over to the new company's plan. Many times they'll let you do that. But as far as the loan payoff goes, you either have to get the new company to agree to hold that loan for you because the loan is held in this account, or you have to pay it back. You can probably be better off maybe borrowing the money from a bank using your 401k funds as collateral to pay it back. Long answer, but thank you, Aaron. Appreciate the question. It's a good question.
Thanks, Steve. I think we have time, just time for one more. This question is, the owner of our company gives us extra vacation days if we work Saturdays and Sundays during the winter. Will that continue?
Good question. Everybody's, many family-owned businesses have side deals, so to speak. They will not be able to do that, especially in a bigger company. They have to treat everybody the same. The policies are the policies. That is a negative. So unless they do that for everyone, more than likely that will stop. So.
Okay, and actually we just got one more in. We get a discount on our propane and a free service contract. Would that continue with a new owner?
Typically, you will roll over into that owner's employee programs. Almost every company we've ever run across has a program like that. Whether it's free service, whether it's discounted oil. I've seen oil at cost. I've seen oil at 20 cents over cost. Propane at cost or over cost. So whatever the new company's policy is, you would fall under that. And they almost all have employee discounts.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your insightful presentation, Steve. We really appreciate you and your time here with us today.